this fine Wednesday in the middle of June. Evan and Tiki here on The Fan. A lot to get to. We'll expose Sean Morash for being a giant hypocrite. What the hell is going on in Foxborough with Tom Brady? The latest on the New York Yankees, who won again last night, and the Mets continue to be lifeless. But we run into controversies every once in a while, and there's different forms of controversies. There's controversies that come out of nowhere, like the Aaron Rodgers stuff. Controversies out of Fugazi, like the Aaron Rodgers stuff. I mean, it's not a real controversy. Everyone
just a bad look.
It's a bad look.
Not a controversy, just a bad look.
Well, the way it's been talked about for the last 36 hours, it's what I like to call the Fugazi controversy.
You want to talk about the Mets instead?
No. Exactly. Maybe later. But then there are controversies that you know they're coming, like you see them from a mile away, and you choose not to talk about it until it's right in front of you. So I think it's worthy today of bringing up a controversy that's coming. It hasn't happened yet. I don't think many people have talked about it yet. I'm not raising alarm bells on it, but it's worthy of a conversation because it's going to happen. So unlike the controversy of, oh, my God, I thought Aaron Rodgers would be at OTAs, and all of a sudden he's not there and it's a big deal, let us address something that is going to be a major issue on this radio station and a major issue in New York City. And it involves the NFL, and it doesn't involve the Jets. It actually involves the other team in town who also has OTAs that nobody other than the diehard fans are actually talking about, and it's the New York Giants. Earlier today, Brian Daboll said something that I completely agree with. I think we all agree with, which is Daniel Jones is the quarterback.
Yes.
This idea that there's going to be a Drew Lock versus Daniel Jones competition, not happening. Now, my opinions on how I would have attacked the quarterback situation during the offseason, we may have different on it, but it's over. Like, I didn't win with who I said they should get. So now we deal with who's on the roster. Daniel Jones gives them the best chance to win. Okay, no controversy yet. I think we're all in agreement on that. But Daniel Jones has a contract that is very similar to a lot of other modern quarterback contracts where his deal could become almost fully guaranteed if he gets injured this season. There are injury protections around him, and I'll quickly give you the details. Next year, Daniel Jones is due to make $30 million. We've all just assumed, well, if he doesn't have a good year, he's gone. They cut him. They make that decision 5 days before the league year starts. They barely have to pay him anything. Great.
Yes.
But if he gets hurt and cannot pass his physical in the middle of March, 23 of the $30 million he would be owed that year become fully guaranteed. We have seen two franchises specifically, the Denver Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders, purposely bench quarterbacks towards the end of a season for this reason.
Yes.
Russell Wilson last year was benched not because he stunk, not because he's a diva, not because of anything other than the fact that he had the similar language in his contract. So this is going to happen.
Yes.
Like, there's going to be discussions, whether it's sooner than you think, of, hey, why are we playing Daniel Jones? It's too risky. We don't want to be locked in to $23 million guaranteed next year.
Yeah, so this is not just a Raiders and Broncos from last year. This happens in subtler forms as well, as we saw with Zach Wilson last year. They weren't trying to protect against an injury guarantee for Zach Wilson, but they were trying to protect against a loss of value via trade in the offseason by basically sitting down Zach Wilson, as we heard from yesterday from Randall Cobb. So this is it's a nouveau way of looking at rich quarterback deals and how to get rid of them, or how to best move on from them, because you might not be able to get fully rid of it, but you can move on from it without taking the biggest hit. Now, my challenge here for Daniel Jones, and I mean this I'm not that I'm challenging Daniel Jones, is that every single year it feels like he's the butt of something like this. Whether it was when he first got drafted and his supplanting a legend in Eli Manning, whether it was a couple of years ago before he signed his long-term extension, even though it's only 2 years, essentially, the 4-year, $160 million deal, people were actually having the conversation of, when will Tyrod Taylor start for the Giants? This is before he had this great season and he ended up getting paid. The going conversation was how soon until he gets supplanted by Tyrod Taylor. And now, just a year plus into his deal that he signed after that season, we're having a similar conversation. Meaning, when is it prudent to pull the plug on Daniel Jones to protect against costing the team money? It's almost like he can't, and again, a lot of this is because of injuries, but he can't get a fully backed support from the fan base in this town. It's crazy, and I understand it, but I feel for him. Like, I feel for the reality that he faces every couple of years about his job security.
Here's what I feel for. I think this whole situation sucks because I was having a discussion last night with a Giant fan. We were texting each other about this because I do think it's fascinating. And he is actually an extremist. He told me, I wouldn't play Daniel Jones at all this season.
Wow.
And I said,
for the reason that you just alluded to?
Because look, so my opinion on Daniel Jones is this. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a decent quarterback. My lack of faith in him is his ability to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been pretty consistent about that. I think I already know what Daniel Jones is as a quarterback. I don't think he sucks. I think he's an average quarterback in this league. I think you can win with him with the right talent around him. But my biggest concern is health. My biggest concern is a neck issue that popped up and has popped up numerous times. Obviously, he's coming off a torn ACL. I would have replaced him during this season, or at least I would have made aggressive moves, whether it's drafting someone. They tried to trade up and draft Drake May, whether it's acquire Justin Fields, where Daniel's on the roster. He's sort of competing, but I have his replacement right here. Giants didn't do that. Now, I'm not a believer that I'm not going to play Daniel Jones because I go into a football season like I go into any season. I'm trying to win. And Daniel Jones gives me the best chance to win. If Drew Lock, Daniel Jones, and Tommy DeVito are my three options, I'm sorry. The best option's Daniel Jones. But, as my friend pointed out, if you don't believe in Daniel Jones and you're going to replace him next year anyway, and your biggest fear is he's going to get hurt, how could you suit him up, have him play, have you be right, that's me, where he gets hurt, and now all of a sudden, from a salary cap standpoint, you've screwed yourself.
Yeah,
and it was the first time, I want to make it clear, I would play Daniel Jones, but it was the first time where the dude made me think, like, wait, he's kind of right. Like,
yeah, he is.
I don't believe this guy can stay healthy, yet he should go play risk the salary cap balance of the New York Giants for the next 2 years. Like, it makes things difficult.
It does, but here's why it's not a difficult decision for Daves, and I think Joe Shane as well, because I think they're simpatico in this. This regime needs to and wants to win. I don't think it's in Daves' DNA to say, we'll kick this thing down the line. Yeah, we'll figure this out at some point. Yeah, you know what? I want to draft my own guy at some point. That gives me an extra couple of years, and I can lose for 1 or 2 seasons or 1.5 seasons while we figure that out. I don't think that that's in their DNA. And so the object is singular, win. Who puts us in the best position to win? That started in his rookie season, Dave's rookie season as a coach, when he set the tone about earning your chance to play. Right? You have to earn it. We're not just going to give it to you just because you are supposed to be that guy. And so that tells me the philosophy in that club, that locker room, is all about winning, period. And Daniel Jones gives them the best chance. Now, the question becomes, if they are not good, so come Thanksgiving, whatever week of the season that is. What is that, week like 14, 13?
Yeah.
Week 13, they're 3 games under 500, and, they're scuffling. They're not really good. Maybe they've won some ugly games, but haven't really shown anything. And you're not in line to make the postseason. You've won 3 games at that point. You're 3-10 or 4-9. Do you pull the plug on Daniel Jones?
I think you have to.
I think you have to.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to that. To me, Daniel Jones's immediate and future with the Giants is all about winning. And some of that's going to include things that he does, but a lot of it's just going to be the team. It's just a good team. And if it's a good team, you're not going to make a change at quarterback. If it's a bad team, you're going to start making the business decision. And that's where it gets hard, because you flip from emotional, we always got to try to win, even if it's a lost season, like last season, we're always going to try to win these games, to man, we could save a lot of money on the cap.
Yeah, and
we really could go make a move with whoever the next free agent quarterback or disgruntled quarterback is. We can do that if we can move off this Daniel Jones contract.
So where we usually agree, and we've teamed up on Sean, is I'm all about winning too, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not in this, hey, let's sit him, let's think about
it. In tanking.
I don't either, and I never did when we talked about it last year. It's just that this situation sucks. This situation, the fact that you're looking at a man who's going to be owed $30 million following this year, and it becomes fully guaranteed if he gets hurt.
Yep.
And the biggest concern around Daniel Jones is his ability to stay healthy, puts you in this horrific spot. And I hate to look backwards, but my first reaction in kind of thinking about all this is, man, they really should have brought someone else in. Whether it was Justin Fields, who I espoused a lot, whether it was drafting someone, because it would have allowed you to do both things at the same time. Try to win, have a competition, and if that guy's outplaying Daniel Jones, you protect yourself from the salary cap situation we're talking about. But right now, when you look at their quarterback situation, of course he should be the starter. I'd be foolish to say, oh, yeah, Drew Lock gives him a better chance to win. He doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
Tommy DeVito, until proven otherwise, he doesn't either.
Even though he had some good returns from early part of
But
OTA.
then they showed you by benching him last season and not letting him kind of finish that story a year ago. So it sets up like this kind of awful situation where Daniel's your guy, as he should be. He's going to play. And then, like, weeks into the season, we're all going to start analyzing, all right, when do you pull the plug?
Yeah.
Can't risk him getting hurt and having this thing almost fully guaranteed.
To me, it's only if they're winning. Do you not have this conversation? If they're losing, this will become a conversation. If you're winning, we're not even thinking about this.
Yeah, and there's no way you could visit the road of Evan's friend telling him not even playing, because now we're up to step 3. Step 1 would have been, don't bring Darren Waller back at the end of the year, sit Saquon Barkley, and try to win, but don't try to win. But the Giants beat the Eagles the final week. They tried, and they won games down the stretch. So that eliminated the draft thing. Step 2 would have been being honest with Russell Wilson and saying, we think you could start week 1, and then maybe you do bring him in or Justin Fields in. Now that you've already gotten to that point, Daniel Jones is the guy. Unfortunately, we're riding this injury thing. Ultimately, it's this, Evan. Giant fans have to grasp this, and I think the Giants are holding on to this. Whatever happened in 2023 stunk dramatically. 2022 did exist, and Daniel Jones was the quarterback of a team that made the playoffs. So for the Giants, and everything Tiki alluded to, you have to ride this out because, look at the schedule right off the bat. 2 winnable games to start the year. You have an opportunity in a league where we just found out last year with Tommy DeVito. Are you really ever truly out of it until the bitter end? The Giants have an opportunity to be a playoff team this year, whether people want to laugh at that or not, and Daniel Jones gives them that best opportunity. Unfortunately, just like Denver, they had that opportunity. It is going to be to the bitter end. If he happens to get hurt along the ride on a good season, that's the risk you won, but you got to try to win.
And that's the riskiest scenario.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny you bring, the Denver situation is it's an interesting comparison, but it's not real because Sean Payton had no love for Russell Wilson. Because they were still in position to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they benched them.
Yeah, they were 7-8. They needed to win their last 2 games, get a little bit of help. And, yeah, they could have made the playoffs.
And they had lost 2 in a row. It was the Detroit game and then that Christmas Eve night game versus New England. So it had become a disaster 2 straight weeks.
True, but they were still in position to make the playoffs. And then they basically punted.
Yep.
Said, all right, we're good. Russ, sorry, man.
Which is the tricky spot of having a 7th team. You have to have an honest assessment. Is that considered real playoffs for you as an organization?
Yes.
Or having a real shot?
No. The playoffs are the playoffs.
Yes, and especially if
Is that what you're asking?
If you make it with a quarterback who's in the Denver Broncos case has won in the playoffs and won a Super Bowl.
I understand.
Versus the Giants situation, who's been there and won a game but didn't do well in the other one.
Right? I understand.
It's a different calculus,
right?
Because Daniel Jones is a good quarterback who's not really proven in the postseason, whereas Russell Wilson, he was proven. Like, you were scratching your head when that happened. Even though it was inevitable, it felt like in Denver to bench Russell Wilson, but it was still a head-scratching situation because they could have made the playoffs.
And I understand it's a tough sell for you or anybody in the room, 52 guys, but if you've played out a year and you kind of are who you are, and it's going to be a 9th win that gets you in and you're a product of the rest of the league collapsing, you need to make a determination those last 2 weeks. What is for the betterment of this team and this franchise? Playing 1 extra weekend where you're probably going to lose to Dallas or whoever and be honest about it, or you know what? Pull back. If DeVito or Locke get us in, then that's one thing. But I can't risk Daniel Jones getting hurt. We haven't seen enough, and this is for the betterment of the franchise.
I think you are going to do something I normally do as a sports fan. You have a strong opinion about a player. Maybe you want the guy gone. Maybe you want to move on from that guy. The team disagrees with you. And then as you get ready for a new season, you got no other choice. You wrap your legs around the guy and say, let's go. I hope we win, right? You were done with Daniel Jones. You were, Sean, and
because
that's okay.
Because of the injury. Because of the injury.
Well, so that's the same reason I was. That's not a bad reason. Just because I'm arguing, and I think Sean had argued something that's different than most Giant fans who turned on Daniel Jones, doesn't mean we're wrong.
You know what? I almost, and this is bad to say, but I'm going to say it. What? I almost wish that his neck was the reason that he missed the rest of the season. Because when he explained the neck injury this offseason, it was just a stinger. Right? He marginalized it. He minimalized it. It's not, I'm not worried about him having a stinger. Those things hurt like hell. If you're a position player, you just go play through it. It doesn't matter. You deal with the pain. If you're a quarterback and you have weakness in your arm, especially your throwing arm, you can't play through it.
Right.
So it was minimized to the point where I kind of want to not worry about it. The ACL, I also am not worried about.
Right.
Because ACL injuries and rehab and returning from that is almost automatic these days. And so I know there's an injury history, and I know it's not even circumstantial because it's kind of been specific things that have happened to him, but I can't think about that front and center. You know, it's not like he has an elbow injury or a shoulder injury like what was the guy out? Matt Stafford had out in Los Angeles coming off his Super Bowl, and you kind of knew it was going to be a little bit of a tough season for him. I don't think that with Daniel Jones.
No, but
maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
but I don't think that with him.
Track record says you're wrong because he always gets hurt. Like that's my fear of him. So if you, Sean, or I thought, hey, you know what? The contract was a beautiful thing. It was only 2 fully guaranteed years. After next year, we move on. That's been the common belief around here. Well, you're risking that not being the case if he gets hurt, which is my number one fear about him. And if you were ready to move on from him, and I think most Giant fans, if you ask them with truth serum, yeah, you're hopeful going into the year. Yeah, you hope the offensive line is better. Yeah, you hope Malik Neighbors is a star. Yeah, you hope Daniel Jones can recreate 2 years ago. But most Giant fans, deep into their core, maybe for different reasons than me, are probably knowing, hey, we're moving on at the end of next year.
Yeah.
Well, this is a risk to it. Because if he gets hurt in the 7th week of the season or even early in the season, and it could be anything. Doesn't have to be his neck. It could be his damn Achilles. It could be anything. You have taken that one positive approach you had, well, it's only 2 years, and you've thrown it on your head. And the idea of replacing him next year with a veteran quarterback or whoever becomes a lot more difficult when now you're paying him $25 million.
No doubt about it, Evan, but that's why it's threading the needle. And like Tiki kind of alluded to it, and we could say that they're not on hot seats, but you also can't not play Daniel Jones, just run Drew Lock out there, win 4 games, and run into the problem where, wait, are they going to fire Dable and Shane? Because I think all Giant fans, we want those guys here long term. So how do you thread the needle here?
And you got to put your best foot forward.
Yep, and that's with Jones.
They don't have the benefit of the doubt, even though I don't think they're on the hot seat. If they win 4 games, as you said, and it looks like they're not putting the best player out there, they're going to be in trouble.
Well, I think that starting probably right away, there is going to be a discussion. All right, when do you pull the plug on Daniel Jones? That is going to be a common... Now, if he's playing lights out and he's playing like the MVP and they're 8-0, then sure, there may not be that discussion. The discussion may be Daniel Jones is awesome. We were all wrong.
And then you're going to say, wow, that was a value contract that
Right.
Joe Shane signed him to a couple of years ago.
But the likeliest scenario is that football cloud that's going to hang over us is when do you pull the plug? So to the Giant fans out there on this beautiful June day, while you're laughing at the Jets, kind of chuckling at them, they're a mess. When do you pull the plug on Daniel Jones? Toll-free number is 888-808-1019. And I think to a lot of Giant fans, they've already done it. They would have done it. The problem is they didn't. And when your backups are Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito, they're committed to him to start. Toll-free number is 888-808-1019. A lot to get to. The new...